Welcome to the Half Thumb Homestead. Today we're going to get rid of this Bosch and put in the LG dishwasher to match the new fridge. These are the tools I assume I need for the job. Need a Phillips flathead, a couple flashlights, and a wrench to take off the water line. We're going to start this job out with we're going to turn the water off. Now, my place has a specially designated water line and a switch up top up there on the right for doing the dishwasher. The plug for the dishwasher is behind the dishwasher. The water is obviously underneath the sink, and then you have that line right there that comes from the dishwasher for discharge. So we'll be disconnecting all that. There's the other water valve back there, down below. I'm going to shut that sucker off. And we're going to go to the dishwasher and remove the plate on the bottom. This is just to cover up all the innards. Don't mind the dog hair. It's supposed to be there. I'm going to take these two screws out here. I've already loosened them up. I'm going to pull this plate off and get it out of the way. There's two screws holding this into the cabinet face here. We're going to pull those out, and then we're going to crank on that guy here with a flat tip screwdriver, and that's going to drop the back down. And then we'll use the Phillips head here to loosen up the feet. Back these feet off to give us some up and down play, and then we'll slide it out. So I'm going to go ahead and disconnect the water line and take the two screws on the cabinet face off, and I'll be back. Okay, I've taken the two screws out on the cabinet fascia. So now I got a little play there. I'm going to remove the water line here. I believe it's a 5/8. And it is. Don't forget to stuff a rag underneath it because it's going to leak. It's going to have pressure on it. I already turned the water off, like I said, and the power. Okay, so I got the water line off. Very little bit of water came out. It doesn't look too bad as far as the rubber inside there being damaged, so I should be able to use it again. All right, next step is to loosen up these front feet. Side here. This is your jam screw. It goes in and just kind of stops it from spinning. So we loosen both those up. And you may have to get a hammer, small one, to be able to spin these. Sometimes they are pretty tight. We're going to try not doing that. So once we get it to start moving and we get a little drop in the dishwasher, it should come out. Easier to move. Now you may have to drop these out more or suck them in more in order to get all the way out. Next step of this one is to drop the back down. It drops the back, so we're going to loosen it. And I don't know if you can see, the whole dishwasher is slowly dropping down the back there. And I'm going to take this down pretty much as far as it can go because I don't want to have to deal with messing with it again. It's pretty easy after a while, and then it stops. So now we'll look at the front feet and we'll pick the dishwasher up a little bit. Probably have enough room, but I'm going to try and get these guys all the way in to make sure they're not going to be an issue at all. This one is all the way up, and so is that guy, as high as it can go. So we shouldn't have any issue with that. Now that all of our feet are loose and the two screws into the side are out, it should slide right out. And I say should because, you know, nothing ever goes as planned. So my this old dishwasher here came with these really long brackets to attach it to the side. So I actually had to cut them to make them work. And if you watch me fumble there a little bit and mess with those, they got stuck behind the wood. So we're going to slide this out as far as we can go. I'll be right back. So dishwasher's out as far as I can pull it for the moment. So there's my plug back there. And then that goes through the two pieces of cabinet to get underneath my sink. You have the water line, which we're going to leave connected. And then we have the sump drain from the dishwasher, which goes over and up and attaches to the top, somewhere up on top to give it a P-trap like thing, aeration, and then it connects to the garbage disposal. So what I've done, rather than disconnect it at the garbage disposal, I'm going to disconnect it here. Now there's going to be a bunch of water coming out, and I'm pretty sure this line will not match the new dishwasher, so we'll have to take it out and replace it anyways. To do that, just grab a pair of pliers, needle nose or whatever. I brought both. I'm gonna get in there and bust this guy loose. For both. We'll get that clamp out of the way. And I'm pretty sure once I take this off, it's gonna make a big old mess. Mine's probably full of water. What I tell you, look at all that water. So I went and got a couple bigger rags. But now the dishwasher is completely free. And we can clean up all the water and pull it out of the way. And then put in a new one. So dishwasher's out, and all the water's out of, most of the water's out of that siphon tube there, the sump drain. Cleaned up the mess I made. So if you look underneath the sink here, the connection for the dishwasher is here. And it has this just an easy clamp comes off. But what they want you to do is they want to make sure that you have that like an air brake in there, so the water won't siphon back into the dishwasher. So there's actually some things you can put on top of the counter to give you that same thing, I just put a big old loop in it up top up there. So this one's pretty long. So like I said, I'm going to see if I can use this one on the new dishwasher. All right, so let's go open up the new one. So we're opening up the new dishwasher here, and it comes with a brand new wall frame. You can actually take this wall frame and, you know, you can paint it if you want, but I was going to leave it just like it is and mount it to the wall. And I was going to put a picture of all our old appliances in it just to show everybody what we've done, because, you know, I'm awesome. But it looked good. I just have to, I just have to get it past the wife. So on the old dishwasher, don't forget to rob the cord. It does not come with a cord, electrical cord. So this is the one that the builder had put in the house that I used on the last one. So you just have to wire it in. On this LG installation, they tell you to run the power on the one side and tape it to the ground, and then run the water to the other side and tape it to the ground. I'm just going to show you a picture. There's the picture they used there. They want you to pull this stuff through because I guess there's channels. I haven't looked at the dishwasher yet. There's channels in the bottom of the dishwasher for this stuff to come through. So I've got in the kitchen, I've tilted it up so I can show you what they're talking about with those channels. Do the best I can here. This is the electrical back here. You can see the box. It's for electrical, and this big gap here is for your water hose. So I'm glad I kept that giant long water line because I'm going to need it. Next is to hook up this guy here. So in order to run the new sump hose from the new dishwasher, I have to disconnect the other one from the garbage disposal. Might as well just run it all the way down. Let's open up as much as possible there. And slide it out of the way if we need to. And just kind of wiggle that bad boy loose. I'm going to save that for later. Just on there like so. Now we can fish that bad boy through that hole in the wall over there. And get it out and fish the new one in. So I got the other hose out. Just make sure you completely drain it before you take it into the other room because it'll make a massive mess. I mean, you saw how much water I got out of it. So I ran into a small issue running my water line and the sump drain hose through the hole on the other side of this cabinet. First, I couldn't put my arm through there, so I just took some pliers. It's just particle board garbage, so I just took pliers like so and grabbed a hold of it and just pulled up and broke it off to get my arm in there. Well, then on the inside, I had the same issue. And there's not a lot of room in here for me to get anything in there, pliers or none of this stuff, whatever. I'm trying to find you a good vantage point. So I was able to actually stick my arm through the other hole with a pair of pliers and just grab a small chunk on the bottom there to pop out, which gives it sufficient room, if you look, for the water hose to ride underneath the drain hose. So I was able to get it all through. And it took me, I don't know, 15 minutes to make that happen. You know, I'm so muscular, my giant forearms. It's just really hard to get in there. I went to tape the water hose, and that's when I said I better run that guy first. So run everything dry first, make sure it's going to work before you tape everything down to put it all in. So the next step is to plug in the cord, run it over here, and tape it to the ground. You also have on the back of this dishwasher just a couple ridges here. This small area, if your water hose or the drain hose here is in the way of this, it will not sit back far enough in the cabinet. So make sure that you pull that guy through and it stays down low. Next step, plug in the cord and put the cable out here so I can tie it up here in a second. Be back. Next step, according to direction, is to take the cover plate off here from the front. So we're going to take this screw, and there's one on the other side off, and we're going to set this plate aside. The screw here on this plate, we're going to set it aside. so that we can hook up the water and the electrical. Next, I'm going to line up the hose and the electrical so I can slide the dishwasher in. Just making sure that the electrical slides back and forth so when I push the dishwasher in, it's not going to bind it in the back. Remember, we have two channels underneath here for the water line to run in through and the electrical to run through. Looking through the front, I can see the back down there. This will be a little bit goofy for you here. It's upside down, but it's back there. Electrical. So then we got to slide it back. Tight fit. Want to make sure too that we are still in the channels, which we are doing really good. Don't forget as you slide it in to pull that sump drain hose in more and more each time, because like I said, if it's sitting up too high, the cabinet's literally 23 inches from the back and this thing's 23 inches up to here. So you will not have the distance to push the dishwasher all the way in if that sump drain hose comes up and gets in the way. I don't have very much of a flange on these boards to connect the screws to the sides here. They tell you in the manual to use the brackets and to connect to the top. Well, I can't do that because I have granite countertops, so it won't happen. So I pre-leveled the machine when I stuck it in this hole, fed the line through that like I told you earlier about the sump drain. It's not causing any issues in the back. I think I'm going to have to extend it because you're supposed to have a U shape up top to allow the air gap for the water to go out. So I'm not sure I'm going to have enough room for that. So pre-leveling it, and then you take these little plastic caps off. They just pop right out and you screw this to the cabinet. I had to pre-drill my holes. As you can see, the cabinets are not straight. There's a gap over here. There's no gap over here. So there's nothing I can do about that. So it's pre-installed right now. I have to hook up the water line. It doesn't shimmy back and forth much. It's got good rigidity. Door closes. You can open the door without the dishwasher bobbling back and forth. So now it's on to the water connection and the electrical connection, which I'll highlight the electrical. Water's pretty simple. I'll highlight the electrical here coming up. So this is the water connection here. I wanted to show you that when you tighten these up real tight, as I try to smoke this guy down and pull up on it, you watch the back, you see the pressure it puts on that. It puts a lot of torque on that, on the upper part there. And it could crack out the plastic. So you want to use another wrench, in this case the 9/16 and the 5/8 on the nut, and back it up. And you put that on there and you're going to push down on this one, the 9/16, and tighten the other one. And what that does is that eliminates the stress on the fitting itself to allow you to get a good smoke down on it, make it really tight. Because the last thing we want this stupid garbage thing to do is leak. Because all that does is create more issues for us as homeowners. That's pretty tight there. So, and there's rubber inside this. You can also Teflon tape, which I didn't do, but it should not leak. We'll come to that later. So leveling this machine is rather easy. It has these levelers here with a 1/2 inch on top here to crank it down. It's pretty simple. You just put the 1/2 inch on there. It tells you to use a ratchet, but you can't get a ratchet in here. It's just a wrench, box-in wrench, and give it a crank and it'll go up and down in the front. The back one, like the one I removed, has a little crank in the front here, but it's not a wrench, it's actually just a screwdriver here, and it tells you up and down. So it's pretty easy. You know, I got the lines running in the conduit holes they wanted, so next is going to be electrical. When leveling it and installing it, you want to make sure that you have the same gap on this side as you do on this side. I think on the original install they want this flush with the counter, but that's the best I could do because of the cabinets. So on the electrical portion, we have to remove this cover plate here. Just a Phillips screw. We're going to pop it loose here. So just one screw, pull it out. Set aside, and the cover plate should lift off unless I didn't take something off somewhere, which is a high probability. Now the edges of this are sharp, so like me, you'll probably cut yourself, so be careful. Set that off to the side. So they don't give you in the package is wire. That's why I told you to rob it from the old one. And this guy, this is your conduit clamp that goes through this sharp edge right here. It keeps the wire from chafing. So what we have to do with this guy is we have to run it through the back. Watch me struggle. This is going to suck. If I had tiny hands, I could probably do this easier. Maybe a whole thumb might make it a little bit easier too. Okay, so we got that through the hole, and then we just take this little nut on here and spin it on there. Now you can get all this stuff at Home Depot, and you pay them to install it. You pay extra, and they bring all this crap with them. You don't have to worry about it. So I'm gonna leave it a little bit loose for now. We can smoke it down later. Then we got to take our wire. We have to run it through that stupid thing. Make sure it's open. So it's closed. It's fully open right there. So that'll give us as much room as possible to run our wire through there. Now, mine's up pretty high, so I don't have to worry about running in that channel they told us about. So we're just going to shove it off. And you see, I just robbed this off the other one. And they got you using wire nuts, I'm sure, which I'll probably use. Now, the old dishwasher had a terminal block in here where you would just put the wire in and tighten the screw up, and you're done. This one is, in my opinion, a little bit cheaply made. It should have a terminal block in it. Now, as far as the red and black, it doesn't matter in this case. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this wire relief out. I'm going to run the wires through this first. Maybe. It's hard to do in this tiny area. I'm going to pull this through a little bit and just let it off the side. Now I'm going to take these wires and I'm going to stick them through this hole. Again, maybe. I'm going to twist them all together so they hold. Through the hole, right? Probably could have done that with it still installed. Pull a little bit through. Put your nut on for your wire relief. So basically we just did the same thing out in the open that we could have done when it was installed. Now it's easier to run the wire relief in the back there and then slide the nut in. Now you can also, like, we can take this back apart and we can stick like this much wire through there and clamp it down. Then all we'd have to do is put the nut on. So I think we're going to do that. We're going to pull this back off. We only need 4 to 6 inches of wire sticking out of there. So we're going to pull this back out. We're going to feed this guy up to where that old clamp mark is there. I'm going to tighten it down right there. Running speed. So that clamps the wire down. So 2 reasons: it doesn't flop around, and it doesn't chafe on that steel in there and end up cutting it up, the wire, and shorten out. So let me feed the wire through there. Excuse me. Feed our wire relief like so. Get our little clamp in there, a little nut. Now we can actually pull on the wire to do all this now because it's got that thing on it. And then do the best you can to smoke it down. There we go. It's got my wire nuts. If you're not familiar with what a wire nut is, it's just basically a spring inside a big piece of plastic, and you can put a couple wires in there and twist it together. And these are used all over the house. In this case, we're going to hook up green, which is your ground green, go into the inner part in there of the wall. Now I like to pre-twist them. Some guys don't like doing that. To me, it makes it easier. Now their wires come soldered to keep them from fraying out when they're on transit. Just stick it in there and twist it like a nut. And as it runs into that spring, it just twists it down even more and more until you get it good and tight. You don't want it to come apart. Now if you have to strip the wire, which I didn't have to do because I used the old one, about a 1/2 inch of wire you want to strip. You want to make sure your wire doesn't stick out the back side, bare wire. That's good like that, all right? So about that much. It'll work. I don't believe the motor's polarity sensitive. It only cares if it gets power and no power. So if you had a white and a black wire, then you would use obviously the white one and the black one. I'll be staring at my thumb now. Then as I twist, and I like to hold the base here together, and that pushes my wire into their wire a little bit better. And it's not grabbing like it should. Because there's solder in there, it's kind of doesn't allow the wire to collapse into the spring. Seemed to work pretty good. It's not coming off. And now the last hole here. The last guy. See the solder? They soldered it up to here and then it's bare. So we can actually take their wire maybe. Like so. Grab a pair of snippers. I know these are needle nose pliers, but they have cutters on them. Just cut the end of their wire off there. That way, when you put the nut on, it'll collapse a little bit into that other guy. So. There you go. So now is to stuff all the wire back on this tiny thing and put the cover back on. So the last step is to turn water back on and then turn power on and see if you can blow the house up. So we're turning power on first. Ooh, and it dinged. And turn the dedicated water line back on. Okay, I smoked on it some more. I got it to quit leaking. So what we'll actually do is I'll clean it off real good here dry wise, and then I'll let it sit and probably run a cycle, because I'm sure that's what the manual tells you to do, and we'll see if we get a leak. I may have to take it all apart and change out this hose. I'm not going to put the cover on till after I run it, just to make sure we're all good. So hooking up the garbage disposal, you have the ability to cut this guy here for whatever size your inlet is to your garbage disposal. Mine happens to be the big one, so I just got to put a clamp on it and stick it on there and tighten it up. Problem is I don't have that S channel they want in here, the loop to give it that air brake, so I'm going to have to actually extend that hose. The reason you want that U channel up top up there is you don't want this drain water getting into your dishwasher, and that's what will happen. So make sure you do that. So as you can see, it's been about 10 minutes and there's a puddle of water, so it's not tight enough, or the rubber internal of the tube is jacked. So I'm going to try and smoke on it some more and see if I can get it to quit leaking. So it seems to still want to leak. It's leaking in between where it's crimped and this fitting. It's not leaking up here. I'm not sure how much more tighter I can get it, but you can see the water coming down. So I'm going to have to go to Home Depot and price that line. So another day. Now it's time for a whiskey. So welcome back to the Half Thumb Homestead. I put a new dishwasher in and I did not change out the compression line. So it's probably recommended after 16 years you change this out. It's leaking at the dishwasher and underneath the sink at the fitting. I'm going to try and replace it without pulling the dishwasher out because it was such a pain in the butt to put in. I've got this little compression fitting here. I'm going to use just a threaded portion, thread into here. I'm not going to smoke it down too much, just to make it snug, and then I'm going to tighten it to that one and hopefully pull it all the way through. We'll see if this works. So on the old line, I'm going to put in that fitting I took off the compression, 3/8 compression fitting. I was able to remove the rubber O-ring inside this here line. I don't know if they sell these or not. It would sure be easier just to change these out. But just going to thread that in there. I'm not going to smoke it down much, but I'm going to tighten it because I know this line, because it's all coiled, it's going to twist a little bit. The hope is I can attach this guy to here and then just pull it through. Holy crap, it actually worked. That's pretty amazing. So there's the new line right here. All I gotta do is disconnect and connect it, and I should be good to go. So I just have to connect the compression fitting here and then connect it at the dishwasher, and I should be able to turn the water on and it better not leak. Get ready to hook up the dishwasher side. Don't forget, when you smoke this down, you tighten it up. You want to back up the fitting so you don't tweak it. Again, this is 9/16 and a 5/8. Try and make this so you can't see it. How am I doing? Pretty good. All right, we'll give that a shot. Hopefully it won't leak. Clean up all the water so we don't have any false positives here. All right, water's on. Okay. So no leak there. Nothing there. So what we'll do is we'll wait 5 or 10 minutes before I put the shroud on, just to make sure that the compression fitting is not leaking. And the next thing I have to do is the actual drain hose for this dishwasher was not long enough. It was about 2 feet short, so I couldn't make that air gap up underneath here. So here's the hose. So you see how it goes straight over. So it's got to go up and around first. So I was able to find on Amazon a 3.2 footer. Otherwise, you go to Home Depot or local hardware store, they're typically 6 feet or 8 feet long. If I had known I needed a 10 footer, I would have put a 10 footer in. So, and you can change that out real quick before you even install the dishwasher. But again, I'm not taking the dishwasher out. So I'm just gonna splice it in and make it work. So to finish up the install here, I had to buy a 3-foot extension for the drain hose because this one went straight in and it's got to have that air gap up top. This particular one I bought comes with a little bracket to put on the wall. It's going to be beautiful. It's going to be so nice when I'm done. It is a 1/2 inch, so I'm going to have to cut this off here in order for the fitting to fit around there to tighten up and hopefully not leak. And then I will have to obviously trim this off to go into this guy here. The clamps they sent with this hose are garbage, so you'll need to actually get 2 5/16 clamps here. I think these are 1-inchers. Probably could have gotten away with 3/4, but I bought a 1-inch. Just bend the tip over here so you don't scratch yourself. So let's finish this up and be done with this finally. So I got the bracket on the back. Got the clamps on there. Getting ready to cut this guy to fit on there. Won't bore you with the cutting part, so I'll probably cut my finger off again. Oh my God, finally done. It's all plugged in. Discharge is ready on garbage disposal. Water's turned on and not leaking. So we're gonna give it a run. And that about does it. So any questions, DM me. If there's anything you want to see that homeowners typically have problems with, I'd be more than happy to tackle that. So drop me a message. Half Thumb Homestead out.